The question is, okay, what time frame is best, okay, to monitor the 10 bar cut? Whether you trade a 1 minute time frame or a 3 minute time frame or a 15 minute time frame or the 30 minute time frame, the most important time frame in the market is always the higher time frame, right? So the monthly chart is a little bit more significant than the weekly chart, and the weekly chart is more significant than the daily chart, and the daily chart is more significant than a 60-minute chart, and the 60-minute chart is more significant than a 30-minute chart, right? So it flows from there. The higher the time frame, the more is the weightage of the market, right? Now, why do I say that? Is because 1 bar of 3 minutes or 1 bar of 1 minute does not make a market, right? A lot of people, what they do is like they take a signal, okay, from a 1 minute bar, and whatever signal it is, a moving average crossover or an RSI or a MACD or whatever, okay, they look at and they extrapolate that and they expect that result, okay, over the next 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months and 5 years also, right? There's nothing, okay, like that ever in markets. We have something called the rule of 10 bars. Whichever time frame, okay, you're looking at, hold that signal, okay, for the next 10 bars also. So if you got a signal, say in a stock in the monthly time frame, that signal is valid, okay, typically for the next 5 months. Okay, if you have a signal in a weekly time frame, that signal is typically valid, okay, for about 4 or 5 weeks, unless something changes to upset, okay, that signal, or something contra happens, right? But that is a holding period. So same thing, okay, if you get a signal in a 3-minute chart, don't expect it to hold for the next 3 days, right? The validity of that signal is 3 minutes into 10 bars, that is 30 minutes only. You get a cleaner idea about what the market is gonna do next. So always keep this futures chart open. It will tell you a lot more about what you are doing. About price action and volume action. So what we are focused on is volume action, right? There are about 3 elements, okay, which go into the makings of a chart. Price, the most important one. Supporting one is volume, and the second supporting one is time. Okay, and at different place, different days, different times of the session, and at different days of the week, each of these 3 play differently, right? So you know that between 2:30 and 3:30, because of the option plays and because of settlement pressure, because of this particular time, 2:30 to 3:30, the market works differently, right? And that point of time, the time becomes more important than price and even sometimes volume. But at certain times, let's say about 9:15 to 10:15, the volume component of the market is more important. A lot of traders are brought up into thinking that price is everything, and that concept is still there. Bhav Bhagwan Che, But Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. There are 3 Bhagwans. One is price, one is volume, and the third one is time. And if you can pay attention to these 3, especially as a derivative trader, you will cut out a lot of mistakes, okay, which you make in derivative trading. The whole idea as retail traders is to eliminate rookie mistakes. Before you start making money, before you actually become profitable, you have to think about how you're going to be eliminating your stupid mistakes.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. Am I audible? Great. Thank you, guys. So welcome back to the Monday 5 p.m. session. And let us start with what we do with a review of what has happened in the last week. And then we will take it forward to what we can expect in the coming days, in the coming 4 days. We'll also see at what action has happened today and how do we take it. So we have the monthly chart on the left side and the weekly on the right side. These are the Nifty spot charts. So we will do the higher time frame analysis on spot and then move on to the futures chart. So we had already discussed this 4-month composite we had been forming in Nifty spot. last Monday when we had that gap up, and we had also discussed how that 23062 level in futures and this low in the spot and the FA of 22998 was important reference for the election day. So what happened on the election day is we just swiped through those supports. So we had negated that gap up what we had on Monday last week, and then we went on to swipe through this value, what we call the 80% rule we made in that 4-month value, and we went on to make a low of 21300. So if you see the weekly profile chart, we can see you have the weekly POCs at 21665 and 21300. So this move lower took support right at this level, and there on the daily chart we left a responsive buying tail. So tails indicate rejection, and rejection means that the auction is done with that direction and is wanting to probe on the other side. So which is what happened when the gap up of Monday got rejected, and on the weekly and the monthly time frame we left an initiative selling tail, which is now negated. But on the 4th of June when we started trending lower, we had an initiative selling tail because the first day of June, which was Monday the 3rd, uh, based on the exit poll we had that gap up, and that gap up got rejected. So we had a selling tail, and then we went on to make these lows. So on the monthly, what are the references we take forward? Definitely we have this green dashed line, which is the RB, responsive buying tail of the current month. So this buying tail can be tested again. We are not sure, but for now this is one reference, and the level is 21791 to 21281, the lows of last Tuesday. So this is one reference which we have on the monthly chart, and then we have these halfbacks of the daily profiles. The first halfback is at 22231, and then the D period halfback is at 22777, and finally Friday's halfback is at 23054. So the immediate support for Nifty spot is this 23054 level, which is equivalent to the 23062 which we had discussed last week. So this 2305554 is again showing change of polarity, and will need to hold in case we want to probe higher in the coming days. On the break of this 23054, we are again getting back into this zone, and we could test these levels of 22777 and this 22231. So this is as far as the monthly chart is concerned. So let us now shift focus to the weekly chart. As I mentioned, the weekly, once the market profile is giving us the imbalance, the unvisited POCs, which is the virgin POCs, we call as the VPOCs, are the probable objectives. So when we started the down move on Tuesday, these weekly objectives were the targets. I'll just enlarge this screen so that we can see only the weekly chart, and it'll be much clearer. So how do we make out that the auction is moving away from a weekly value? So here you can see, if I don't keep last week's weekly value, we we have this 2 weeks range and value almost similar. They're looking like identical twins, only that the last week in May we made an outside bar, we made a higher high and a lower low, although the value was overlapping and the POC was right at the 22541. We had also spoken about this prominent POC, and this was an important reference for the week. So once we moved away from these two values on the downside, the lower objectives will be the VPOCs which have not been tagged on the weekly time frame. So this 221771 was the first objective, and then we had this 21665 from February of 2024, and then finally the January weekly VPOC of 21300. So this is how we see once on what time frame the auction initiates an trending move. We will look for objectives in that particular sense. So what was the last week's profile? Last week profile was a trend down profile because it made a huge drop. We had a range of more than what the monthly range is. We had a range of 2057 points, and whereas the average monthly range is just give me a second. The average monthly range is 1050 points, so we almost did double the range of what we get in a month, and that is the reason we made this big uh, targets which was there from the first month of this year. So what we did was, when we took support at the 21 to 300 level, it was just telling us that the 2024 profile is taking support at the lows, around the lows. And from there, what we did was we retraced the entire fall, and we went on to climb into the AP rate singles of the election results day, and then got into the 3rd June profile also. So what I'll do here is I'll just unmerge this weekly profile so that we can take it on a day-to-day basis and see how on a daily basis we are getting fresh confirmations that the auction is now probing higher. So this 4th of June was where we made that low, and we left this responsive buying tail, and we went on to close around the POC of 21929. So what happened on the 5th? 5th, we made an open auction in range where yeah, we made an open auction in range where we continued to form a balance around the POC of previous profile, and then we left this extension handle at this 22098. So this was a confirmation that the buyers are now forcing their way up. So we got an extension handle, we made multiple range extensions to the upside, and this was a trend day which we formed. So compared to the value of 4th, because 4th was a trend day, we don't consider the value, we only will look at the POC. So compared to the POC, we had formed higher value on 5th, and 5th also was a trend day, so we will again take the POC as our reference. So this 22335 was the POC, and this would have been our reference. And you can see this turquoise dotted line is the rollover point of this series, and we have spoken how the rollover point is an important reference, and we see what is happening at the rollover point. And if we are below the rollover point, we take it as a bearish chance, and above the rollover point, we look for more upside. So this 5th of June, we came back from the lows and stalled right at this rollover point, and see what happened on the 6th. I'll just increase the TPR because we are looking at the daily chart now. So what the market profile does is gives us very supple and important cues of what it wants to do. So the open was right near that rollover point, and when we made that pullback low in the hedge period, again the low stopped right there. So 22642 and 22645 were the similar lows or poor lows as we call them in the Nifty profile chart. So once this happened, it was very clear that the downside was limited. So from here, we were looking for going higher, and we could not extend lower, and we made an extension higher into the close. So we could take the 180R and the 280R object targets from objectives as the auctions role from here. So that is what it did. It went on to tag the 180R target, which was at 23016 the next day. And what we did the next day, which was Friday, was we left another initiative buying tail. So this was again giving us a confirmation that the buyers are still very much in control. So, and for the buyers to reconfirm that, we also got an extension handle in the C side, which is rare, and we need D to confirm that, which D did. So we continued to trend higher, make a one-time frame move all through the day till the L period. And what we did in the process was we negated this selling tail of 4th of June and got into this 3rd June profile. And we almost tagged the high. We just got stopped in this uh, selling tail, the A period singles of 3rd. So we made a high of 23310, on Friday, and we just stopped at the all-time highs of 23338. So it was a bullish close on the weekly profile. So I'll just get it back to the weekly profile mode, and we have the weekly report which is posted on the website where all of this has been explained. We have given a brief of what happened on a daily basis and what we need to look for on the coming week. So in the weekly report, we have mentioned that the weekly profile is a trend down profile, but with overlapping completely outside range and value. And we have closed around the highs. So on the downside, you can see we have this TPO HVN at 23200. So this was our first support for this week. And if you see today's lows, we have stalled right at that 23200. So this is where we will have to see and combine. We take the top down approach, seeing the monthly, then the weekly, and then come down to the daily. So we take references from all time frames and we see how the latest information is holding out. So for tomorrow, today we have made a narrow range day. We made a lookup above this highs, but we could not extend. We did not make a range extension to the upside. So that means the buyers are not very active in this zone. In fact, we have left a small selling tail. So this will be a reference for the upside. Unless we don't take out this selling tail, we can look to get back into this zone. So a break of 23200 can mean this low volume zone between this 22794 and 23200 could get filled up, and this weekly POC would be one support level. And we will have to see how the auction plays out if we come down till here. So this is how it is panned. 23200 would be our first support level for tomorrow, and then we will look at subsequent daily profiles to see how we are playing out. And tomorrow after the open, we'll see the initial balance and then whether we are leaving a period selling tail, which will give us more belief that the auction is headed towards this 22800 mark. So this is about the Nifty spot chart. A quick look at the Nifty futures chart, and we look at the daily time frame here. And I'll give you a quick view about how we need to change and how we need to follow that. Once a trend is down, till what level do we need to hold that view that the trend is down? When do we start looking at maybe the downside is over, the sellers have booked out now, we need to look for the upside to start. So we have a very important feature on the market profile chart which is called the KRLs, anchored KRLs. And the anchored KRLs are key reference levels which you can add. So I'm just deleting this so that I'll show all of you how we can add them again. It is a very easy process. And when do we add them? We can add them either at swing lows, swing highs, or on days where we have a good move. For example, a trend day. So those are the days and where we can add these anchored VWAPs, and these anchored VWAP will continue to show us that what initiative activity had started that imbalance, till what level that those sellers need to hold for that trend to be in that direction. So I'll just quickly add one custom KRL from the 3rd of June. This is the anchored VWAP. You right click on the profile chart, you go to the date, you right click on the profile chart, you get a drop down menu, you do this create custom KRL, and you can select it as the day high because this is the swing high of 23450. And then we select this anchored VWAP, and then the start date is there. We don't select the end date, and you can select what kind of line you want. And I'm selecting a red color because this is a sell side reference. So this is a KRL I'm adding from a swing high of 3rd of June, which got confirmed when we formed the trend day on the 4th. So this selling, how do I track till when the trend will be on the downside? So this VWAP will keep giving us levels as and when we go forward. So as you can see on the 5th of June, this anchored VWAP was at the close of 4th, the anchored VWAP was at 22550. So this was our sell side reference for the 5th. And on 5th, when we saw the auction taking out this level, that was the first indication which we were getting that the sellers are losing control and now the buyers are holding it. So on the higher time frame, this is how we can track which of the swing player is in control. So, and once we close above a anchored VWAP, that becomes the support. So this will now need to show change of polarity. So now after this, what has happened is we have left a swing low at this 21281, 21265 in futures. So what we can do here is we can add a fresh anchored VWAP, custom KRL, anchored VWAP. Again, this will be a swing low of 21268 of last week, and then we again have a dash line, but this time I'll have it as the green color because this is a buy side reference. So now going forward, till this anchored VWAP is not taken out, my view is that the buyers are in control. The buyers who had entered in this big drop here are the ones who are in control. So in case we need to have more immediate references, we can add further anchored VWAPs on trend days, or we can use the daily references. So I'm deleting this anchored VWAP from the 3rd of June because it is no longer relevant and because the swing high has been negated. So now this 5th of June is a trend day profile. I can use this as my anchored VWAP, or I can also use the 7th of June, which was the Friday's trend day profile, as my new anchored VWAP. So here again, I'll add another KRL. I'll use this as a trend day. So this VWAP is going to give me the reference of the buyers who have entered on Friday. So we will also need to be aware about which day the anchored VWAP is giving the reference. So here you can see at the close today, this anchored VWAP is at 23214. So this will be our reference for tomorrow. So in case the buyers are not able to hold this reference in Nifty futures, we can look for a probe into this trend day profile where we can look. I'm very sorry, I need to switch it to the volume profile chart because volumes is what we track in futures and volumes is what will give us the exact view. So here once we break this anchored VWAP, we can get into this zone 23158, which is very close to the 23145 swing reference, the FA which we had, which was a swing reference. See this 28th May, the FA at 23145 had been our swing level to watch when we started June series. So this remains a important reference because we have been getting latest uh, order flow signals also at the same level. So this 23214 and then 23145 158 would be the next level, and then we will have this extension handle of 23019 from the trend day. So this is how we take forward the market profile references, and this is how we can make use of these KRLs, which is a very good additional feature which we have on the charts and which we can use for longer term references. So going forward, today we have formed a balance, and as I said again, we have left a period selling tail even in the futures chart. In spot, we had seen we made a lookup above previous highs, but in futures we are not able to take out that 23450 level from last week. So today's POC and VWAP would be the reference on the upside because we have closed around the lows, and on the downside, this will be our first reference along with this. So 23214 and 23158 would be the immediate support zone for tomorrow's open, below which we can go on to test these extension handles, and then this VPOC of 22794 from 6th of June. So this is how we will take it, and we'll see how the open type is tomorrow and how the order flow is showing us data. So speaking about the order flow, let's have a quick look at the Nifty order flow just before we close the session. But for now, I'll just go on to the Bank Nifty spot chart, and we'll have a quick review of what has happened in the Bank Nifty, and then we can maybe wrap it with the Nifty order flow chart. So before I start the Bank Nifty, in case there are any queries, you can feel free to post them so that I can answer those queries before I continue with the Bank Nifty chart. So if any queries are there, you can please ask them now, guys. Fine. I guess there are no queries, so I'll just get on with the Bank Nifty profile chart. I'll just increase the TPO size just for visual purpose here. And let us see what has happened in the Bank Nifty profile. So this is the monthly Bank Nifty profile chart. And as you can see, we have this A period selling tail on the top. The gap up of 3rd of May, 3rd of June has not yet been negated in Bank Nifty. Although we had seen the auction getting into that profile in Nifty, Bank Nifty profile is still not been able to take off that extra selling tail. So on the downside, what it has done is Bank Nifty has swiped through the previous 2 months responsive buying tails. We had spoken about this responsive buying tails of last month and the previous month, where we had left that FA of 46983. So we had seen how uh, the responsive buying tails of on the monthly profile were acting as supports. So what we did last week was we went on to swipe through almost 3 months of value, and then we took support in this buying tail from the month of March. So in the month of March, we had made a swing low where which we just held. So that is where we took support and we left a small responsive buying tail. And I will come to this reference of 46440 on the weekly chart also, because that was again repeated on the weekly time frame. And then finally we got a confirmation that support is going to hold on the daily also. I'll come to that in a bit. So on the monthly time frame, we have left a small responsive buying tail, not as long as what we had in Nifty, but nonetheless it marked the reversal of the auction and marked a temporary down bottom. And then we have gone on to get into this B period zone, single zone. So this was actually an extension handle. The level was 50,092. So that was the lows of 3rd of June. So once we broke that, we had left an extension handle on the monthly time frame at 50,092 and then probe lower. So the highs of Friday could not take that 50,092 out, and we were stalling at one important reference of 4349937, which was the midpoint of the gap we had, midpoint of the singles we had on the 4th of June. So it was stalling multiple times at that 44937 level. And today, when we opened higher, it could not hold above that 50,092. So you can see exactly there we have left the AP rate selling tail. So we will, on the monthly time frame, we will need to first sustain above this 50,092 for more upside, and then take off this selling tail, which is from 50,657, I think. So this is what we need to take out on the upside, whereas on the downside, the immediate reference would be this POC of 49325, because this is also the weekly POC. And then we have the lower references, which I will come to showing you on the weekly chart also. So just like how we did in Nifty, you can see how in Bank Nifty also the Friday's profile was completely above this rollover point of 49047. In fact, we took support just above this. So this is telling us that the bias is on the upside. Just like I said that the rollover point series wise, we look like an FA. Above that we are bullish, below that we are bearish. So this is how the Bank Nifty profile chart looks on the monthly time frame. We will need to stay above this POC and negate this selling tail. Else we could remain in this profile and look for a balance forming in the month of June and lower levels, which as per the references which are there. So I'll just close this and only open the weekly chart so that we can discuss what happened on the weekly Bank Nifty chart last week. Mandeep has a question that he wants to know how we can trade intraday with order flow and COT. I will come to that part in the last. We will see the order flow chart and we will see how the COT and the order flow gives us good trading setups. So we'll come to that in the last bit of this session. So before that, let us just see what has happened on the weekly time frame in Bank Nifty. So as you can see, we have formed a huge outside bar. We have formed a huge outside bar, and as I mentioned, whenever we have an imbalance on the weekly time frame, the lower VPOCs, the unvisited POCs, become objective. And what happens at those VPOCs will tell us whether the trend is going to continue or stall. We saw that happening in the Nifty spot where we tagged not one but three weekly VPOCs: 22177, 21665, and 21300. So once we broke below 22177 and remained below that, the next lower weekly POC would come into play. So once we broke the 21665 intraday on 4th, the next lower weekly POC of 21300 came into play. So finally we took support at the 21300 level. Similarly, in Bank Nifty, we had this weekly POC at 46438. This is from that March, which I told that it was a swing low, where we had left, and where we took support in that fall on 4th of June. So this VPOC finally halted the down move, and we saw rejection happening there on the 4th also, because the F period broke that level, but the G period completely overwhelmed that TPO, and it went on to close above that level. So since then we remained above this. The next day we left a failed auction right above this VPOC. So I'll just split this into the daily chart so that we can have a look. And so that was a cue which we were getting, that the auction is now headed for more upside. Just like how we made those poor lows in Nifty spot right at the rollover point of 22645, we left a failed auction at this important weekly POC of 46438. So this is from there we went on to probe higher, and I'll just split this, unmerge this to the daily time frames so that we can. So as you can see, the daily time frame, the 3rd of June is where we had this spike which got rejected. So this in fact is a selling tail, buyer who has been turned upside down, and then we have this huge A period selling tail. We have this unvisited POC of 5814, and then the downside probe. If I split this chart, you can see how in the F period we broke below this POC, but in the G we immediately came back and we remained above this POC all through the day. Not only that day, but the next day we made a seaside extension which stopped right above that point. So this is how we get the market profile references, and this is how the market profile chart, the latest auction, shows us what it wants to do. So it was very clear when this seaside happened and when we made an extension handle here, that this is going higher. We not only completed the 180R and 280R targets, we continued to form higher value. And as I said, we stalled at this rollover point on the 5th. And then you can see how on the 6th of June, we made another seaside to the upside, which stalled right at the selling tail, and the probe lower, it made attempts to a couple of times to break below this rollover point, make a range extension lower, but both the times it was getting support at this rollover point, and we closed above. So this is how we watch on market profile, how the daily references are giving us confirmation that the auction wants to trend higher. It will keep giving us footprints on a higher level, whether it is a VPOC, whether it is a failed auction, whether it is value which is forming higher, whether it is a initiative buying tail or a pullback low. So similarly here we have formed value above this rollover point. So that is the reason we moved away from the here on Friday. We made a move away from this value after opening in range, but the open you can see was again right above this rollover point. So what we did here was we got into this selling tail, but this supply zone needs some more time to get absorbed, or it has to form value in this low volume zone. So that is what it did on Friday, and it continued doing that today. So you can see we opened higher, but the higher open was rejected today. And for the first time in I think 4 sessions, we have not been able to make a range extension to the upside. So that is one clue that the upside may have stalled. And now what we have done today is we have formed overlapping value. If you can see from fifth, the POCs are higher. Because these two are trend days, we will not take the value, we will only take the POCs. Here we have formed higher value. Friday value was formed higher, but here you can see value as well as POC are both overlapping. So this is the first sign, and here we also have an A period selling tail. So this till now what we were getting on the downside, now we have got on the upside. So it is now time for us to be a little bit careful. In fact, we can also make a 2-day composite of this Friday and Monday's profile, because it looks like a 313 profile. So we can take this as our value for tomorrow. And if we remain below this prominent POC of 49830, we are looking for more downside levels, which can be the buying tail of this, the rollover point, and the lower VPOCs which have not been tagged. So this is how we will have to take a look at Bank Nifty in the coming days. On the upside, we will have to take out, we'll have to first stay above this POC. We'll have to negate this selling tail 50,092, which I had told. And then we get into this profile, tagging this VPOC, and finally taking off this spike which was rejected. So this is how we are placed in the spot. So these hypos will get updated in the weekly report. We will have fresh hypos marked out for both Nifty and Bank Nifty for tomorrow based on what I have spoken to you. And you can have that handy before the market opens tomorrow. So again, on a day-to-day basis, we will keep updating those hypos as per what latest value or references the market profile chart will leave. So coming to the market profile chart of Bank Nifty futures. So I'll quickly go through this before we can have a look at the order flow chart and wind up the session. So in Bank Nifty, what we can do is, because we have not taken out the swing highs, I am again having that anchored VWAP at the swing high and having that as my reference for the sellers to take out. It would already have been taken out, but I'm just putting that as a reference so that we know from which day the auction had turned. So you can see this was the reference 49077 was the reference, which was also near our rollover point. And you can see how these multiple references around the same level show us change of polarity. So on the 6th of June, when we opened higher, we trended higher, the lower range extension were holding this level. So this was before a supply point, and now it is becoming a support point. So this is how we uh, look at the anchored VWAPs and follow them, and also look at them showing change of polarity. So once a support breaks, that becomes a resistance, and vice versa in terms of the upside. So that is what we will be looking at. If you see today's profile in Bank Nifty, you can see it's a nice 313 profile. What is a 313 profile? It's a nice Gaussian curve balance profile with tails at both ends. So we have almost similar looking tails on the up as well as down, because we closed in a small spike lower. So now we will have to see which of this tail is negated in the coming session, and then look for range extensions in that direction for taking probable trades over there. So anchored VWAP can be added even in Bank Nifty as we did it in Nifty. So if I add an anchored VWAP at the swing low of 4th of June, let us see where that support comes up to. So that will also be one important reference for this week. And as I mentioned, even these levels would be mentioned in the daily report which we publish on the futures. So you can also go through that to keep them handy before market opens tomorrow. So I've just added an anchored VWAP from the 4th of June. And I need to see where the support is. So this is where that anchored VWAP is right now, 48723. So this becomes our swing reference for the buyers who had come in on 4th of June. So before that, what will be our references on the downside? As I already mentioned, one of these tails will have to be negated. If we negate the lower tail, and if we have a nice balanced value, so we have a good chance of 80% rule being implemented tomorrow in either directions. But if we get a move away from this value on initiative signal, then on the downside we will be looking at this zone again. We have a buying tail from Friday at 49339, and then we have these 5th June profile which closed at the highs, and this rejection of 6th of June where we were taking support at that anchored VWAP and the rollover point of 49047. So here you can see how the 49047, the rollover point of June, and this current anchored VWAP is overlapping. So this is how they serve as important zones, and if they are able to hold on, we can expect the market to again reverse the direction to the upside. On the upside, we'll have to stay above this value and take off this selling tail and then get into this zone, the singles of 3rd of June, which is from 58384, and then this day's VWAP and POC, which is at 41092. So this is how we are placed in the futures. We have still not been able to take off the selling tail of 4th and also the spike high of 3rd in Bank Nifty. So that is the reason Bank Nifty is little lesser bullish. It was little lesser bullish than Nifty at close on Friday also, because Nifty almost closed at the highs, which is why it was able to make new all-time highs in spot today. But Bank Nifty still is in that supply point zone. So we quick look at the order flow chart, and I'll switch it to the 30-minute order flow. So how do we use order flow and COT to take trades in live markets? We already have multiple sessions taken by Shai on order flow, and all those sessions have been recorded and put up on YouTube. You can please go through those videos, but I'll show you what has happened in the latest day. So what we can do is we can take right from that trend day of 4th of June, how the order flow and COT have shown us what we need to do. We have seen the market profile chart so far. So let us also see what has happened in the order flow charts. So I'll start from the 4th of June and I'll keep the PPR as 4. So here we can see how we have opened just below that reference of 23145, which was that FA point which I had already mentioned about. So that itself was an indication that we are breaking below, we are breaking lower. We had broken those two important references from the 3rd of June. One was, I think, 23260, which was the buying tail, and the next was 23145. So both of them got broken, and then we got this big seller in the order flow at 23091, and then we had zeros till 23045. So, and then when we are getting a drive down like this, and what is the COT showing us? The COT is showing us minus 70,000 and minus 5,000. So this is minus 70,000 is huge, big COT. So it is very clear that not only the guys who were long the previous session have booked out, but it is also invited some fresh shots, and not just fresh, they are aggressive big shots. So the cot is clearly telling us. So when we get such huge cot, the references of 30 minutes of that particular bar becomes important. So although we had a good, small bounce, generally we take the POC and the VWAP of that 30 minute along with the zone of zeros if we have a zone of zeros on the 30-minute order flow chart. So here this 23045 was one important reference for us. And although in the B period we made a pullback and we made these highs of 22999, it was still on red cot. And then the C side also remained inside the IB. So it was just consolidating, but it was not showing us any fresh greens which were coming because the cot was still not nothing special. It was just 190, 185 in the green. So, but then what happened? We made a range extension to the downside in the D period, and this range extension itself is a setup, and it was followed by again big red cut of minus 31,000. So this was telling us that the sellers are adding on. So this is very clearly showing us even in the 30 minutes order flow signal, we are getting an IS, initiative sell side signal. So this becomes our sell side reference, and this 22490 will be our reference for the day because it's the POC of that new IS bar. So as we go down, we get another IS and the cot continues to be red. So what we do is we follow the 10 bar cot on 30 minutes and 3 minutes, and order flow gives us signals like IS or IB. So whenever we want to look to go long, one is we will look at the IB signals, and then we would want the 10 bar cot of both 3 and 30 minutes to be green. So if there is anything missing on any front, then we will be little skeptical to take the trade. So it is not necessary that we have to take a trade all the time. So we will take a trade only when we feel that all the things are in place. So here you can see when once we, for the first time, we got an RB bar on the 30 minute. This was an IS bar. And as I told you, the second IS, this 21904 would be our reference. Just like we had taken the 22490 as our reference, the POC of the first IS bar, the IS bar, the POC of the second IS bar along with the highs, we take it as our new reference. So you can see how this G period stalled right at that POC of the 30-minute order flow IS bar. So, and then for the first time, we got an RB candle. What is an RB candle? RB candle is a bar which moves lower, which makes new lows, but it gets some responsive buying because of which the POC shifts to the lows. So here you can see on 30 minutes, both the POC and the VWAP have shifted on the downside, and we have closed almost around the highs. Also, although we were not able to take this out in this particular bar, the moment we took this out in the next bar, it was very clear that the now sellers are losing control, losing grip, or they have booked out. So this is how the 30-minute order flow tells us what is happening. And here we can see this was the new RB POC which was left at 21783, and how in the drop later in the day in the L period we took support right there. So this is telling us, so we are not getting IS anymore, we are getting RBs. We are getting RBs, and the auction is telling us RBs and RS. That means responsive players are in, but definitely the initiative sellers have booked out. So this is how the order flow will tell us. So what next? What happened on the 5th of June? We again took support in this RB bar, and then we remained above VWAP. Once we got above VWAP in the B period, you can see all the 30-minute TPOs are above VWAP. So once the 30-minute is staying above the VWAP, it is telling us that the buyers are holding the auction because that is any dip to VWAP is being defended. So you can see this 1072 green, 487 green right at the VWAP when it was at the C side. And then we have this range extension in the D period. So this particular bar of 1045, we can take it as an initiative buying bar because it is given as a range extension, it is above VWAP, and it is made a huge rejection. Only thing here is the cot is negative. The cot is red, so it is very clear that the sellers are still coming in at higher levels. And why not? Because we are entering into that big profile of 4th of June where we had those huge sellers who had come in. So obviously they will be profit booking plus fresh sell which will keep coming in. So this is what happens. You are not aggressively long till the time you see this caught as green. So this is what we see, and then we get an RS bar in the next 30-minute chart. So we are more skeptical about holding the longs. But what will our reference be? Because we have got an IB bar, this 22195 would remain our reference because we are above VWAP for that day. So we are looking at more upside and looking for dips to get bought, more responsive buying coming in. So as you can see, the VWAP of this 30-minute bar is a 22282, and the lows we made in this 1145 bar, the pullback low stalled right there, and you can see a stack of greens coming in at the lows. Trifecta of greens, in fact 4 rows of greens. So this is how the 30-minute order flow helps us to see what is happening and remain in sync with the market. So in case we get an IS, that is where we will change our view that the sellers are taking control. RBs and RS are responsive activity. So it is only telling us the old businesses are covering. So here again at 1245, we made a low right at that VWAP level. So it is again telling us that this zone is being defended by the buyers. And then we went on to spike higher into the close, and even the spike there was momentarily green caught coming in, but as we made that spike higher, we got some red caught. So this again can be a mix of profit booking as well as sellers coming back. So because this was again a supply zone which was there, and we can see we have a trifecta of reds in that L period high. So from there we made a big retracement down to the 22580 level. So at every point we will get sellers and buyers, but we will need to see which of the order flow bar, which of the 30-minute bar is showing us a strong signal, a strong player, and then take those references and keep going forward. So the POC and VWAP of the day, and as well as important 30-minute bars are references which we want to take. So quickly coming to 6th of June. Here you can see at the open we got one big buyer at 22722. So this is how the big guys act. So we got this big player, he made a move higher, he booked out, and then we saw him coming back supporting his level not one but 2 times in the day. So you can see how this 22722 was defended. In the G period, we got this IS bar, but it held above this POC. And then again in the, not in the G period, sorry, in the F period, again in the H period, the pullback low stalled right there. So what does it mean? This RS and IS are, these are definitely seller references. So we will need the buyer to take these out before going, before looking for more higher references. But on the downside, we are forming higher bases. So that will be something which we have to look out for. So this 22722 will now, even now, be an important reference for this coming week. So what we did was on the 6th, we again found good RBs. You can see 1671, 1020 green in this dip, and this zone was being defended 3 times on that day. And finally, we saw this IB forming at the VWAP and the POC of the day. So this reference, this POC of 22795 now becomes our bias for holding longs, and we want to see the auction give us more buy side signals above this reference. So here you can see the cot also in the second half of 6th has started to turn completely green. So this is in fact a good day to carry long positions because you've got an IB on 30 minutes, you have seen support coming in, and you have got caught on the green side. So what we did on Friday at open was we did make a dip, but the VWAP of this day was defended. And then we continued to, there was some profit booking which came in because we have seen some good greens who had come in previous day. So, but, and as I said, we continue to remain above VWAP. So on the 30 minutes when we are not able to uh, break below VWAP, it clearly shows that the buyers are in control. And you can see how we made a range extension in the C. We continued higher in the D, and then it was all on green caught. We got a fresh IB bar in the E period. We left an extension handle here, and then even the cot was showing us green. So on Friday, there was no reason not to hold on to longs right from open, because the order flow, 30 minutes, cot, market profile, all of them were supporting this view. So as we moved higher and we closed around the highs is where we started to see profit booking coming in. So as in the afternoon on 6, we started the cot turning to green, from red to green, big green. We started seeing the cot turning to red from this 1245 bar onwards. So here you can see a sequence of red cots start beginning to form. So this is where you know that the longs are booking profits, and this is how the cot is telling us to be careful about carrying overnight longs. So although we did close as a trend day, we also saw the POC shifting to the top, right to the top. So that was another signal that it was profit booking. So all indications were that we are looking to stall or maybe take a pause. At the open, we opened higher today. Right at the open, what we got was sellers. You can see the cot of the first bar was minus 4,938. But initially, when we opened higher, you can see these. I'll just zoom it later. You can see how the sell side numbers were bigger than the buy side, and how we formed an RS bar at 23400, which was just below the 23425 reference we had from the 3rd of June. So from there, we have remained in a balance today. We have remained in this IB range all day. We have not been able to take off this RSPOC all day. We did make an attempt here in the 145 bar, but we left another RS. So it was very clear that there was no demand coming in here, which is the reason we made this spike lower into the close. So what we have done is, now there has been on the cot, we have a fairly, if I open up the 10 bar cot, it is not too deep red. 10 bar caught on the 30 minutes and 10 bar caught on the 3 minute also not deep red. So tomorrow will likely be a fresh auction which will start, because the caught seems to have a reset after the move we saw yesterday, after not yesterday, the last weekend till today. So what started as a balance last Monday has ended as a balance this Monday. So we'll need to see if we get a fresh imbalance tomorrow. And for that, we will have to have an eye on the open type tomorrow, and the kind of order flow signals we get along with the cot. So this is how we use order flow along with market profile and cot to take live trades. We use a combination of 30 minutes and 3 minutes. 30 minutes is for the longer term buyers, and 3 minute is for the trade execution. So I'll just show you how we have a dual window mode uh, option available. So we have a 3 minute chart on the right and the 30 minute on the left. So whenever we are getting IS bars here, we'll just check what the bias is on the 30 minutes and then accordingly take action. So as I said, 10 bar caught on 3 minute is also not a big red. So tomorrow can be a fresh auction, and we will have to be ready for it and accordingly take some good setups. So I think we have gone past time today. So anyways, if there are any queries, I'll just answer them. Mandeep, I hope this session has answered your queries. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of YouTube videos on order flow which you can go through. Yash has a question asking what point we need to look to find out market will be sideways, like today till 2 p.m. and after 2:15 there's a fall. So that is what we in market profile, we have TPOs which we follow, 30-minute TPOs, whether they are making higher highs, whether they are inside, and we check the order flow. As I showed you the example of RS forming in the A period, so that RS was continuously stalling the upside, and finally in the 145 TPO, when we made an attempt to try that hit that RS, we again saw another RS forming. So the sellers got it very clear that there is no demand there. So that is when the auction changed the character and it made that swipe lower in the close. Jay has a question. He asked, unless we take out the highs, it can slide down, right? And we should look for downside trades. That is the reason we look at top to bottom approach. We have the monthly, weekly, and the daily. So today we have the daily selling tail in both. So unless today's selling tail has been taken out, we will look for more downside in this week, and the downside will be defined by the targets which have already been mentioned in the report. So we will switch it from the monthly to the weekly and the daily. We'll cut it down to the daily. We will look for targets as per the daily profile. So any more questions, guys? So I think that's it for today, and thank you all for joining in, and hope you guys like this session. If you have any queries, you can definitely get in touch with us. You can mail us at support@wetrender.com, or you can DM me on Twitter. My Twitter ID is open. It is at Uttam Goel, X ID. So we'll happy to be of any help in case you have any doubts regarding the sessions which we cover in this. So thank you guys for joining in. Signing off because we have already behind schedule today. So let's log off and get ready for tomorrow's action, which promises to be a good one. And we'll catch up very fast soon. Thank you guys, and signing off for now.